rats, but it's some pretty sick ones. So we got some blue, we got some red. We have Quinn Tonole on Mono Blue Belcher, and Ivan Espinosa on Jeskai Blink.
All right, Taplands starting things off. Not that surprising on the Belcher side of things.
No. Getting things going, developing the mana. We've seen a few different flavors of Blink to this point in the tournament. Jeskai gives you access to Flage and Ragavan. This is actually very similar to what we saw the reigning Pro Tour champion, Michael DiBenedetto Plummer, playing. Nick Miller did a deck tech with him in the sideboard as well.
All right, I think game one, this can be a pretty tough one, but something like Teferi Time Raveler does a ton of work.
An attempt at a dashed Ragavan is met by Disrupting Shoal, pitching Spell Snare. Go back to Tonole. On turn 3, he is going to suspend Lotus Bloom, a little late to the party.
I feel like Lotus Bloom is one of those cards that you see more foils of than non-foils.
It was the pre-release promo, right? Or
right, different art than that one. It was the pre-release promo twice, actually, because they did the retro frame one for Time Spiral Remastered.
But this is just a pack foil.
Right.
Okay.
From Modern Horizons, or not Modern Horizons, Modern Masters 1, excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So I try to be unbiased in the booth. Quinn is my favorite sleeves of all time.
You do love these sleeves.
I own like 3,000 of these sleeves.
Quinn casting Preordain. Love that. Lotus Bloom ticking down. Hydroelectric Laboratory enters as land number 3. The mana is developing, inching towards a combo. As Espinosa is going to fetch up an Elegant Parlor. The full Jeskai suite of mana is online. Both players have been making their land drops, have been developing. A slow build to the Belcher with the late Lotus Bloom. But nothing too bad for either player.
Right. One of the things that Mono Blue Belcher has going for it is not necessarily that it is super fast. It is that it has a trick, and it is really good at that trick.
Teferi Time Reveler, a powerful one in the matchup for Espinosa, met by Strix Serenade. You got to counter that one.
Ooh, the one of Strix Serenade in the main deck.
Give away a 2/2, but the game's not generally about that.
Right. There's a point where every little bit of pressure matters, fully aware, but whenever it buys you a ton of time, Teferi Time Raveler would just basically counter Lotus Bloom.
Right.
Here in a second. So
yeah, 2/2 versus Teferi.
Disaster.
Easy to say which is more powerful.
Right, exactly.
Lotus Bloom gets a little bit closer, and here's Stock Up.
Stock Up and Preordain having a little team-up episode in the back half of this round.
Yeah, actually a 2/2 split in the deck.
Oof. Wow, that's nice.
Don't ask him which one's better either.
Yeah, that's always my friend that I used to grind all of the SCG events with back in the day. We would always affectionately refer to that as the coward split.
They're both good.
Right. We also did it, right? we would use it to describe our own decks, but
right.
I'm not sure. I'll just do 2 of each. I'll probably know by the end of the tournament.
Now, this is a phrase that I've picked up from Magic that I really like when it comes up in conversation. If it's wrong, it's not by much.
Yes, exactly.
Espinosa is going to fetch up a Thundering Falls.
3rd Surveil land.
So many Surveil lands this weekend.
1 shock land on the table.
He's going to mill away a Hallowed Fountain. Surveil land milling shock land, kind of perfect.
Really just driving the stake through the heart there.
And this is potentially a very significant turn, as now the Lotus Bloom has 1 counter left. See what Espinosa does to develop here. There's a lot of spot removal, sweeper type stuff in this Jeskai Blink deck. A little light on counterspell. There are some. You do have those 4 main deck consigned memories.
I think game 1 is very uncomfortable for the Jeskai Blink deck. Having the main deck consigns is something that feels pretty good, but in some ways also can almost feel like a consolation prize, where otherwise this might just be hopeless.
Right.
Teferi and consign naturally strong cards, but generally Mono Blue Belcher has more answers than Jeskai Blink has cards that need to be answered.
Yeah, cards, not decks, as
Right,
it were.
Exactly.
Yeah, Quantum Riddler did draw a card on the warp there. The Strix Serenade, the 2/2 connected, and now Lotus Bloom's coming off suspend. We see Espinosa fetching in response. Finds a basic plains. There's a main deck March of Otherworldly Light, but I don't think that's what's happening here. Looks like Consigned to Memory is just going to get rid of that Lotus Bloom.
Replicated 100 times.
Twice, but, you know, enough.
100 times.
Functionally 100 times. Here's Preordain for Tonole. The second copy with enough mana up to cast a second stock up if it turns up.
I believe.
Just good deck building, frankly. Looks like one top, one bottom on the scries. Tonole will draw.
And this is the spot now where the nice thing about this Lotus Bloom being in exile is that means that a card like Tameshi is not actually going to be very good at getting things off the ground at this point.
Yeah, nothing to pick up. There's Tameshi. Here's my 2/3. It's still scary, right? We're just a War of Invention away.
Right, it's totally fine.
It is vulnerable to Flage. Speak of the devil.
This speaks to my inference here is that Tonole is tripping over Tameshi's in hand, and
Yes.
that's why you would deploy it in that spot.
Yeah, it makes sense. They're not doing anything hanging on to him. And there you saw another Warp Riddler. That time it drew 2 cards, I do believe. So Espinosa gets the gas back up and is getting close to actually closing the game. Next turn, the Flage can escape. Really apply some pressure. So here's War of Invention on the main phase for Tonole. Word for 0.
Uh-oh. I mean, Lotus Bloom into Tameshi, I think, is game.
There's a Lotus Bloom, a foil, a pre-release Lotus Bloom.
Oh, I love that one. I love that one.
And there's Tameshi.
Yep, so that's floating white on the Lotus Bloom, which leaves just enough for Tameshi to start doing his thing.
Time to pick up some lands. Return the Lotus Bloom to hand. So you have the one white mana floating. That lets you activate Tameshi. Pick up one of your modal dual-faced land cards. The first one's going to trigger to draw a card with Tameshi. You return the Lotus Bloom to the battlefield. Right, there's land for turn. Untap Seagate Seagate Restored, I believe is that land. 3 white mana off the Lotus Bloom. There's 4. Return that to the play with a Tameshi. Now down to 3 floating, but you have 6 total because of the bloom. You just get to keep adding more mana every time you do this. All right, 8 mana. 7 mana with the Lotus Bloom. 10 mana.
And the cool thing is that Waterlogged Teachings is actually a tutor, which lets you get a tutor, which lets you get the Belcher.
Well, here, how about just the Belcher from hand with a bunch of mana floating?
Oh, yeah, that'll do.
That will do, and Quinn Tonole will win the first game here over Ivan Espinosa.
Right, Jeskai Blink in general is the type of deck where you're really trying to fight over creatures for the most part, or combos where the end state is a creature. So I think this is the kind of deck where it's very easy for me to believe this being a deck that you might be comfortable against Amulet Titan. It's very good against Goryo's Vengeance, and it's pretty nice in the Blink mirrors.
Yeah, checks out. All right, so players are going to go to sideboard for Quinn Tonole on the mono blue Belcher side of things. Up a game here. Of course, you see Consigned to Memories in the 75. What's the sideboard plan going to be here?
I think for the most part, it's just Tonole trying to insulate against the interaction that Espinosa is bringing. It would not surprise me, depending on what Espinosa has, if these engineered explosives were strong. I'm double checking really quick. I have to look down at the bottom. I don't think there's a ton on that side to justify the explosives. Mystical Dispute, naturally very nice here. Given that Espinosa is likely going to be leaning pretty hard into something like Consign, I can imagine this Flusterstorm is a site for Sore Eyes as well. I think you could make a case for Tomio. I suspect that's not what Tonole's going to be doing, as it is just kind of the lone target for something like Flage in a lot of situations. But
Right.
that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'm double-checking Espinosa's list to see if there's anything like White Orchid Phantom to justify putting this mountain in the deck, but I don't think so.
Yeah, not seeing those in the spread. On the topic of Espinosa's deck, let's take a look at his side. Now, down in a game with Jeskai Blink, you're talking about how a lot of the stuff in the main deck is kind of creature removal. Even having the Flage to answer one Tameshi, not remotely good enough in that first game.
Right.
Hoping for some help in the sideboard here.
Right, so Force of Negation, Mystical Dispute, both excellent cards in this sort of matchup. I can also see Ghost Vacuum being pretty nice, where it isn't the most exciting, but it is something that can actually just sort of provide an additional question that Tonole needs to be able to answer before comboing it with something like a Tameshi loop. It's not necessarily going to be great in the level 0, suspend my Lotus Bloom, cast Belcher on 4, kill you game. But a lot of the time, Espinosa is trying to win a game that takes 6, 7 turns. So in the world where Espinosa is actually checking that draw, the next layer of that is how do I beat the Tameshi, which is not what Espinosa was able to do last game. So having something that can give you that extra insurance is fairly attractive whenever there is creature removal that you want to get out of your deck anyway.
Yeah, that tracks. Just having something that can play in some of the games versus a fistful of stuff that does the same stuff that wasn't good enough in some of the games.
Right, and then Surgical Extraction is also a card that can just completely take a card out of the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just check something like, I don't know, Mystical Dispute a Goblin Charbelcher the hard way, just the 3-mana link way and extract it, that's going to be a really big problem for Tonole.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Ivan Espinosa playing Jeskai Blink. We've seen a few different flavors of these Blink decks, all of them playing 3 or 4 copies of Quantum Riddler, a hit card from Edge of Eternities. If you haven't checked this set out, just modern, standard, really big constructed hit, one that I've heard a lot of praise for the retail limited environment as well. You can order your Edge of Eternities now on StarCityGames.com/MTG-EOE.
Yeah, multiple cards in Edge of Eternities making a splash in Modern right now. We've saw Pinnacle Emissary doing stuff in Affinity earlier today with us in the booth. I know Ice Till Explorer is something that's doing a lot in a bunch of the land decks. Some versions of Amulet Titan are even packing it. Awesome, awesome set.
Yeah, ton of hits there. Heard a lot of really good reviews for just the world building. People really enjoy the world there on the edge.
Yes, extremely vast, extremely, extremely rich lore going on there. They put a lot of work into it.
Starting at game number 2, looks like Tonole keeping on 7, Espinosa mulliganing to 6.
And this is the sort of, in some ways, emblematic of the pressure that Tonole's deck puts Espinosa under, where Espinosa in general has a bunch of cards that are just quote-unquote good cards, but is going to take a little bit to kill Tonole, which means that there's a lot of pressure on him to find answers to the actual combo. And if there isn't one in the opening hand, it's probably worth going to 6 or even 5 to look for a hand that does have something like at least a Consign to Memory, a Force of Negation, because you have cards like Quantum Riddler that can help forgive being down a card or 2 early.
Yeah. You talk about how the Blue Belcher deck, it has a couple different plans. You are kind of all in combo, but the Tameshi games and the outright Belcher games, they play a little bit differently. Ultimately, you are this linear combo deck. You do invite your opponent to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, whatever your interaction is. You know, if you have it, it's strong. But as you see Espinosa going down to 5, it does say, hey, if you don't have it, you're dead.
Right, exactly. Right. In a lot of ways, I would liken Mono Blue Belcher to kind of this era of Modern's version of Storm combo, where all roads lead to Grape Shot. In this case, all roads lead to the People's Cannon, where there are a bunch of counter spells. There's Tameshi, there's Roar of Invention. There are a bunch of details, but they all point to the same North Star.
The People's Cannon is such a great moniker for Goblin Charbelcher.
Oof, that is a nice flooded strand.
Oh,
holy
yeah.
credit where due.
Onslaught foil, let's go.
Take me to church.
Dwari Runes tapped for Tonole. Got to imagine, here's a Surveil land. Yes, of course, it's Meticulous Archive for Espinosa. Taking a look at the top card. When you're on so low resources, going to be a lot of cards you have to think about here.
Right, this is the spot where on 5, it's not really clear if Espinosa even found one of those important reactive cards we were talking about before. 5 is about the point where you kind of just have to say, okay, I need lands and spells. I need to be able to play a game of Magic.
Right. Basic Plains was milled. The Flooded Strand is the land for turn. Going to go and find an untapped Steam Vents, fetching down to 16 for that. And here is a Warped Quantum Riddler. Still just drawing 1 card, but it's a start. Blue-white tap land for Tonole.
The all-important Suppression Ray. Hard cast in
Pro
the finals
Tour
of the
winning.
Pro Tour.
Pro Tour winning Suppression Ray.
All right, Fable the Mirror Breaker. Here's some really nice card filtering. If it were to resolve.
And Force of Negation going down a card against an opponent that's mulligan twice on the play. Pretty good exchange for Tonole.
Oh, yeah, perfectly fine. Okay, so shocking a 3-mana land into play. Or 3-mana DFC that could have been a land. It's just a pretty loud, this is the worst land in my hand.
Yikes. Yeah, and it's even sinking to Stupor. That card is so strong. And
correct.
speaking of so strong, stock up.
It could find anything. It could find Preordain.
It finds 2 things. It could find 2 Preordains.
That is exactly how many Preordains it can find in several respects.
All right, Tonole picks up 2 cards. Espinosa. Land number 4 is Flooded Strand number 3.
The handsome Flooded Strand 3.
Another Warp of a Riddler, still just drawing 1 card. And that's it as we head back to Tonole. Another Jawari Runes. Gonna be some draw-go for a little bit here.
So one of the things about Tonole's mono and blue Belcher deck is that it is not the most explosive. I know a lot of times in Modern we see things like Amulet Titan, which are able to go really quickly and theoretically win as early as the 2nd turn. This deck has a bunch of tap lands and it puts more of its points into consistency, where here, in a lot of ways, Tonole is threatening lethal next turn secretly in an almost Splinter Twin-esque, I will War of Invention for Lotus Bloom and then cast Charbelcher and you are dead way.
Yeah, definitely something you have to respect on Espinosa's side. He actually surveils away a Mystical Dispute.
All right, so it sounds like Espinosa has the reactive cards, but needs to find a way to get to the business end of this game.
Right, here's a Goblin Charbelcher. Seemed like a good check.
All right. All right. I mean, if you have multiples in hand, I know there are times you see this with cards like Show and Tell and Legacy a bunch, where you say, okay, well, you know, multiples of this kind of chew through counter spells eventually to let one of them resolve.
And in such a low resource game, like the nightmare scenario is counter spell, you know, plus that a sideboard, a surgical extraction. It's pretty unlikely.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny, that's a spot where if the surgical extraction is in Espinosa's hand or deck, Force of Negation exiling is kind of downside.
Right. Looks like March of Otherworldly Light pitching Solitude's the answer. Okay, so Solitude hanging around in the deck. It's an answer to Smeshi. It's the mana boost necessary to actually get to X equals 4 for the Belcher.
Okay. Look, any port in the storm.
All right, so the Belcher has been answered. We go back to Espinosa, and here's Surgical Extraction, but the Belcher was exiled.
And that's targeting...
Great question.
I would guess Force of Negation, but I'm low confidence.
There's not a lot of stock ups in the deck.
Yeah, given that Force of Negation countered it, it sounds like Tonole probably has another one in hand or something like that, and is just saying, okay, well, if they're going to be gone anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Espinosa is going to warp another Riddler. We go back to Tonole.
That thing has me wondering if Espinosa's hand is Consign plus Ephemerate.
Well, it's Consign. He's being patient with
Right.
it as Goblin Charbelcher has resolved.
There's Philia.
Dash Ragavan. Here's an attack for 4 from Espinosa.
Oh!
Link the Belcher.
Oh! Consign can make it be gone forever.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but it didn't. Oh my god!
But it was not there. And Quinn Tonole is going to pick up this match 2-0 over Ivan Espinosa, advancing to 6-0. We'll be seeing Quinn Tonole on day 2 of competition here.